Welcome to History 2323, Lecture 6, Overview on Immigration, the third theme. This period is sometimes called America's Century of Immigration. Things were happening in Europe that were causing population growth, and then opportunities were happening in the United States that were attracting immigrants to come there to start a new life or to get a job, make some money, and go back home. When you leave your home country, you're an immigrant, and then when you arrive, you're an immigrant. So the push-pull are things that are either push you out of your country, such as if there's a depression or if there's political persecution or religious persecution, and the pull is what's drawing you to the new country. So here's some examples. Do not memorize numbers here. It's just showing you. You can see the trend is growth. More and more people are coming to America as we move through the 19th century. There's two ways. The key date would be 1880. So before 1880, most immigrants from Europe came from North and West Europe. They were generally more skilled, more wealthy. They came for various reasons. So why they left also for various reasons. But the key thing for them is that they planned to stay in America. They came to assimilate. So rather than just stay on the East Coast, many of them kept on going into the interior of the country and starting businesses of all sorts in the Midwest. So assimilation would be things like not just learning English, but if you had a name that was a little bit like if you had Schmidt as your last name, it may be changed to Smith to make you fit in more like an American rather than as someone that came from another country. After 1880, you have a big change in that you have immigrants coming from South and East Europe. So they came for a lot of the same reasons or got pushed out for a lot of the same reasons, but their destination is going to be East Coast. Now, they were different than the North and the West Europeans in that they were mainly Catholic or Orthodox Christian rather than Protestant. They were less skilled. And the key thing is that they only planned to come, make some money, and go home. So there's really no need of assimilation. However, in the long run, most of them ended up staying anyways. Some of the negative results of immigration, you can start seeing the initial immigration processing center is called Castor Island, but the big one that everyone knows about is Ellis Island. And then on the the West Coast, it's going to be Angel Island. Was their the place where they came from South America, Latin America, or Asia. They went through Angel Island. Here's where you start having certain groups pushed into certain types of work, and then you also have the rise of nativism. The old clashed with the new immigrants because they were different. So there was an anti-Catholic mood that emerged. You can see that many of these names and groups will be mentioned again in your text. So there's a strong anti-Catholic feeling across the country during this period. It got so strong that the Vatican City ambassador, U.S. ambassador, was withdrawn. And it wasn't until Bill Clinton, so that's a long time, that there was no U.S. ambassador in Vatican City, until Bill Clinton put an American ambassador back in Vatican City. Another problem was anti-Semitism, anti-radicalism. If you know your European history, there's a series of revolutions in the 1830s and then 1848, another round of it. So they were considered radical if they were coming here for to get away from political persecution. And I put the scientific nativism in quotes because this is where it's pseudoscience is a better way to say this. They had beliefs that phrenology, the shape of your skull, the way your cheekbones and your eye sockets and so forth, that told others about your character or about your heritage. Eugenics, gene pool studies, they try to quote unquote purify the American gene pool, which is going to be a lot like what the Nazis were thinking in World War II with the master race idea. They tried to, because there were so many new immigrants coming in, they tried to restrict birth control going across state lines with these Comstock laws because they're trying to create bigger families, those who were of the old immigrant group. And then IQ tests were also used to determine intelligence, which is really it's too narrow of a way to test intelligence. But they were used, and they generally favored men, and they favored North and West Europeans. So specific targets of nativism, saying we don't want you to come to America anymore, would be the Chinese, and you'll see those issues as you read through the chapters in your text. The Japanese would also told we don't care to have more of you come, and rather than write a law, which we did with the Chinese, we just basically made an agreement with the Japanese government to not send them here anymore. There's a resurgence in the 1920s of anti-Catholic mood. A second KKK, the first one being targeting African Americans. This one still did that, but they also target other groups like Catholics and new immigrants and foreigners in general. So some laws are passed. These two laws will be in the books until the 1960s, and they're based on census data, and they went on by country. 3% of the population of your country in a census count could come in per year. Again, it favored North and West Europeans and discriminated against South and Eastern Europeans. And then other groups like the Chinese weren't welcome at all. So anyways, this concludes topic 6, lecture 6 overview.